Okay. Like you're a superstar. Hello. That's perfect. Okay, I'll stay close. Yeah.
Hello, welcome to Electrify Our Community, inspired by the Earth Portrait Project. My name is April Younglove, and I'm an adult services librarian here at the library. This is a special project that combines both our art display for the month and a special visit from the group Electrify LO, which I will tell you more about in a bit. First, I wanted to remind people that we do have a survey at the end, so if you fill out the survey, it helps us know which programs to do more of and what you like and what you don't like. That's going to be over by the reference desk. Also, if you have any trouble hearing, we have an assistive listening system, and you can get that at the reference desk as well. There is third, a sign-up sheet for the artist Cyndi Strid if you want to follow her work or get in touch with her after the program. So, first, we're going to hear from the artist who is showing her work right now in the Stairwell Gallery throughout the month, all month long. Her name is Cyndi Strid, and she's going to tell us a little bit about what inspired her to do her work. And then after she talks, I'm going to come up here again. I'm going to introduce our next speaker, and we will go from there. All right. Are you ready, Cyndi?
I'm ready. Hi, everybody. Nice to be here today. Hello, everybody. Nice to be here today. And thanks for your interest in the Earth Portrait Project. I've been an artist for probably the last 20 years of my life. I was trained later in life, graduated from the Oregon College of Art and Craft in Portland, Oregon. And I've been a dedicated advocate to the earth and protecting our species and the livability of the planet for all people, for all time, and all species for all time. And this work grew out of my involvement with the Columbia Gorge Climate Action Network based out of Hood River, Oregon. And I'd been doing quite a few just educational postcards and participating in their events. And one of the things that happened was that I had young people come up to me and say, gosh, we don't know what to do. And everybody keeps saying, you know, this is your time to take care of the earth and you will be the ones to save the planet. And they were like, what do we do? Nobody's leading the way. Nobody's showing us and giving us guidance on how to be prepared for that huge, seemingly insurmountable task. So I decided, maybe I'd just start asking people, what are they doing, other adults, and asking what are they doing to care for the planet and how they're thinking about it. So that's how this project evolved. And I ended up creating an earth that when you come to the library, you'll see the globe that I repainted. And I asked people to hold the earth in their hands and to tell me what they love about the earth and what they're doing to care for it in innumerable ways. And it was really, it was inspiring for them and for me. I was kind of surprised how much everybody loved holding the planet. And what you'll find when you see the work is there's 60 ways to love the earth and 60 ways to take care of it. Everybody had different ideas and different actions they were taking. And I hope you have a chance to enjoy the piece. And if you'd like to have the Earth Portrait Project in your community or in your school, please do reach out to me, and I'll do whatever I can to make it happen. So thank you very much.
Okay, so something happened that was really interesting. Cyndi contacted me about showing the Earth Project here, and then I also heard from the Lake Oswego Sustainability Network, and then Cyndi mentioned Electrify LO, which is a project of the Lake Oswego Sustainability Network. And also, you don't even know about this yet, you two, there's also a group called Solarize Lake Oswego, and we're going to have a presentation later this month from them on Tuesday, August 19th. And I love how that all came together so that we can bring you this whole suite of programming this month. You can learn about electrifying your stuff, solarizing it, and then also feel inspired with our beautiful art exhibit. So now I'm going to introduce our next speaker, Linda Gonzini, who is a member of the Lake Oswego Sustainability Network, the organization behind Electrify OREGON, which is a local campaign in partnership with Electrify Oregon to accelerate community-wide transition from fossil fuels to clean electric energy sources. Come on up, Linda.
Thank you so much. Thank you to the library for having me here. Thank you, April, for facilitating everything. Thank you, Cyndi, for giving me this opportunity. I gave a talk here at the library a couple years ago. It's great to be back. And welcome to all you people on live stream. That's they didn't have that last time I was here. So yes. How to help the planet, and I'm going to be talking about a very important way to help the planet, which is to electrify your life. I'm speaking on behalf of two organizations today. The Lake Oswego Sustainability Network, LOSN, which is an all-volunteer nonprofit in Lake Oswego, the major environmental organization in Lake Oswego. And we work on a variety of initiatives around the climate, materials management, which is the new term we use for recycling, electric landscaping, advocacy. We can work in the schools, we work with the city, we work with businesses. We've been around for about 11 years. And then a few years ago, LOSN and other organizations across the state who were focused on the climate came together and formed Electrify Oregon. Electrify Oregon is a group of 22 organizations in Oregon moving to help people move off fossil fuels onto electricity, which is I'll talk about in Oregon, increasingly clean and renewable, and to give them practical ways to move their lives into clean energy. How do I, let me see. I know how to do this.
I know, it's not, so this is the touchpad. You pitch here to go right and there to go left.
There, of course. Okay. One of my favorite commentators in this area is David Roberts, and he summed it up by saying, on climate policy, there's one main thing, and then there's everything else. Clean electrification is the entree, and everything else is the side. So do people in Lake Oswego care about the climate? Well, we actually have data on this, and they do. Every other year, the city of Lake Oswego hires a well-known survey firm to ask people in Lake Oswego what their major concerns are, what they want the city to work on. And in 2023, published in 2024, the biannual City of Lake Oswego survey talked to 401 randomly selected Lake Oswego residents, and they asked them about 13 general areas that the city should focus on. And effectiveness of efforts to respond to climate change was the third most important of the 13 areas. And when they looked at a combined index of importance and satisfaction with the city's response, it was the single most important area that people wanted the city to focus on. This was not a fluke response because it was the same result in 2021. This information has been used to really work with our city councilors and our mayor about a variety of initiatives around climate change. I'm trying to go back. Oh, back there. So there's also been surveys that look at Clackamas County resident beliefs. The Yale program on climate change communication has done so many surveys now that they can drill down and look at county-wide beliefs. And this is a little hard to look at, but it turns out that in Clackamas County, 60% of people are worried about climate change. And 73% believe global warming is happening. 53% believe global warming is caused mostly by human activities. So that's a little bit low. When you look at actually Multnomah County, it's about 75%. 59% say that most scientists think that global warming is happening. Again, much higher in Multnomah County. And 53% say that the presidential candidate's views on global warming are important to my vote. As you can imagine, in Multnomah County, it's about 71%. So these are, oh, we have a question. Yes. It's usually means something like not sure, don't have an opinion, I don't know. Usually people don't want to stake their views in the sand. Good question, thank you. But when you look at policy support in Clackamas County, even though people are concerned about global warming but are not like wildly concerned, they really have strong views supporting policy. 72% thinks the U.S. economy transition from fossil to fuels should transition to 100% clean energy by 2050. 75% thinks that the U.S. should fund research into renewable energy sources. 80% think that we should generate renewable energy on public land. 75% think we should provide tax rebates for energy efficient vehicles or solar panels. And 74% think that we should regulate CO2 as a pollutant. And in fact, until a year ago, we were doing all of those things. And we know now that many of these initiatives have been repealed, even though in a county like Clackamas County that is not wildly concerned about global warming, we know that there's enormous support for these. So what can you do to address the climate crisis? The important things that you can do are to electrify your home and your ride. And what that means is to get an electric vehicle, heat your home with electricity, particularly using a heat pump on high efficiency. Support the build out and transmission of clean energy. Examples are to purchase solar energy or community solar. To support policies that promote clean energy, to support environmental justice, to make sure that as we make this transition, disenfranchised groups are not left behind in the transition. And then as you transition, to share your electrification and clean energy successes with others enthusiastically. And locally, Lake Oswego has a climate action plan. They have been working on this for many years. They're making progress on it, and it's important to let your city councilors know that you support it and that they should keep moving on it. So how does electrification address climate change? Well, in Oregon, we're divided into areas that have public utilities, such as Eugene and Ashland. And those areas are fed by Bonneville Power, and that power is 100% clean. It is hydropower. And if you were to electrify there, your house, you would immediately have clean energy. But if you are powered by an investor-owned utility like PGE or Pacific Power, only about 45% of your electricity is clean. And in fact, PGE still has 6% of its electricity as coal. So that in 2021, the legislature set benchmarks for PGE and for Pacific Power, saying you must become clean gradually over time, and here's how you have to do it. And by 2030, 80% of your electricity must be clean, below a benchmark that you had in 2010. This doesn't quite add up. This is where we are today. Currently, as of, this was actually last month, 45% of PGE's energy is clean. 13% of it, they actually don't know if it's clean or not. Probably a bunch of it is wind and solar and hydro, but it's of indeterminate source. One of the big questions is, will they make it to 80% by 2030? I don't think so. A bunch of people don't think so. And what do you think the big problem they're having is? Does anybody know? What is the barrier to getting to 80%? Transmission. You got it. So it's pretty easy and inexpensive to build a lot of solar panels and wind power. It is very difficult then to transmit it to major population centers. There are numerous barriers, and Oregon as a state has more transmission problems than almost any state in the union. We're about the bottom when it comes to transmission problems. In our last legislative session, we addressed that a little bit. We did some icing on the cake, but we did not address the major issues for transmission. So I don't think we're going to really solve that problem. Our electricity is going to get more clean and renewable. We're going to make progress. I don't think we're going to make it. But even if we don't, if you have electricity, it is more clean because it's not wasted. When you are using fossil fuels, you're burning things and you're using a lot of heat and it gets wasted. When you are using an internal combustion engine in your car, a bunch of that energy is wasted as heat. When you're using natural gas to cook on your stove, a bunch of that energy is wasted as heat. But when you use electricity, you're using very little is wasted. So even if the source is not as clean, you immediately get a lot more efficiency and fewer greenhouse gas emissions just because you're not wasting as much. So, but we are getting more clean and renewable. The transition has to happen as fast as possible. It needs to happen more quickly. We've got some barriers. It's a huge area that needs to work. So we need not only for this to happen quickly, but we need to also manage the efficiency side. So as we'll talk about, if we just made everything electric, we would swamp the grid immediately. We need efficient appliances on the other end that don't use as much electricity. And we also need to manage the demand. It would be very helpful if we could manage it so that electricity was being used very smoothly through the day. As it is, when do you think most of the residential electricity is being used? in the summer between 4 and 9 every night. There's this big spike in the use. And when that happens, then you have to bring online a bunch of extra natural gas peaker plants to do that. So they're inefficient. They use a lot of greenhouse gases to do that. And so if we were able to do things like store battery from solar more, which they're trying to use, then there would be a much smoother use and less waste. So that's another area that they're working on. So, how to approach electrification? Well, first of all, it's not a compromise. So, throughout our environmental history, we have had this approach about doing less, doing smaller, reduce, reuse, recycle, and it hasn't caught fire. It really hasn't. People like things. But the good news about electrification is your life will be just as comfortable. It doesn't impact the quality of your life. An electrified life is a lovely, high quality of life. Another important concept is the idea that electrification is a journey, that you're really going to be doing your electrification over time. You're not going to buy an EV, heat pumps for everything in your house, and everything over a few months. You're going to be waiting. Your furnace lasts 10 to 15 years. Your water heater lasts 8 to 10 years. You're going to wait till the end of your life, and that's when you're going to make the choice to move to a heat pump. Now, you may retire them early because they're very inefficient at the end of their life. They're really putting a lot of greenhouse gas emissions, particularly at the end of their life when they're inefficient. So you also want to do them before they just break, and because they break in January. And if your gas furnace breaks in January, you are going to get another gas furnace, because the person who wants to fix your furnace is going to say, we cannot do what you want this quickly. And they're just going to convince you to get another gas furnace, because that's easy for them. That's what they do the best. That's what they know. So it's really important to be thoughtful and prepared. And that's why being knowledgeable is very important, and having a plan. So we really encourage people to have an electrification plan, to already know your contractors, to know what you want to do. So the most magical, remarkable devices in all of this are heat pumps. And what makes them remarkable is that they do not produce heat. They move it. And that makes them extraordinarily efficient. So when you think about a furnace, you think about something that has a spark and burns something, and that's how it produces heat. But a heat pump takes heat already in the environment, and it moves it from one place to another. And because of that, they only use a quarter to a third of the energy of a traditional electric or fossil gas unit. Both either as an air conditioner or as a heating device. And luckily, the same device can be an air conditioner or a furnace. The same device can work and you just flip a switch, and it runs in reverse, and it serves as the alternative in the winter and summer. So that's what makes them just quite remarkable devices. So this is a heat pump water heater. also called a hybrid hot water heater. About 18 to 20% of home energy use is for hot water heating, so you can make a big dent in your greenhouse gas emissions by switching out to a heat pump water heater. Because they work by moving energy, not heating up your water, they're slower. They heat things up more slowly, and so that if you're running 6 showers a day in your home, they can be not as helpful. So a lot of them have backup resistance heating if you need to heat up water really quickly. For example, so these often are not as great if you have 3 teenagers living at your home, but they're perfect for many other households. Also, if you're switching from natural gas, this may be surprising, but your unit may not have electricity to it. And then switching it so that you have to bring electricity to it can be expensive. But there are newer units that have 120 volt models that you can just plug into an outlet, plug and play. Again, because they don't have 240 volts, they're slower. They won't heat up water as fast, but they're perfectly adequate for just 2 people living in a home. So again, when somebody comes to visit your house, like you're having your whole family during Christmas, it might be a bit of a problem. But they're perfectly adequate for most situations. I know a couple of people who have them who are just delighted with them. And again, you're saving a lot of money by not having to bring electricity in. This just shows how much more efficient and inexpensive heat pump water heaters are. 3 times more efficient than electric storage, gas tankless. So again, a heat pump hot water heater costs about $125 per year to run, compared to $500 for an electric storage, $400 for a gas storage, and only produces about 0.4 tons of greenhouse gas emissions per year, compared to or carbon emissions per year, compared to electric and gas, quite a bit more. Air source heat pumps. These are used to heat your home or air condition your home. 2 types, ducted and ductless. Ducted ones are what you would use to replace a furnace and use the ducts underneath your home. Ductless are these units that are don't use ducts but are just on the walls. These ductless ones are also called mini splits, and they are by far the most efficient. If you have ducts, you're losing heat as they're going through the ducts, but also the ductless allow you to just heat an individual room. Gives you a lot more control, and therefore they're quite a bit more efficient. Everyone recommends that before you get a heat pump, get an energy audit. And an energy audit will often include something called a blower door test. This blower door test will look for cracks in your building envelope, need for insulation. These cracks occur just through life. A contractor comes to your house, they'll punch a little hole in your wall that you don't have. Small animals do this. problems with your insulation. All this happens, and these problems in your envelope lead to little holes, and it means your heat pump has to work a lot harder. And it may be that there's so many cracks and problems in your building envelope that if you fix them, you can actually get a smaller, less expensive heat pump, and you'll save a lot of money. Another important thing is to make sure that you are getting an Energy Trust of Oregon allied contractor, because there are important incentives that you can, and rebates through Energy Trust of Oregon that the contractor will give you. And if you go to electrifyoregon.org, there's also a list of allied contractors that are also very pro-electrification. They will not try and talk to you out of any of your electrification goals. Yes?
So when you say that it heats up water a lot slower, how much slower do you
It depends on the unit. I would say just off the top, maybe 50% slower. You guys know offhand how much slower? Yes. So they're saying if you have a big enough tank, you can compensate for that, and then it won't run out. Even a small heat pump tank, though, is a big tank, though. Okay, incentives for heat pumps. So if you are somebody who pays federal taxes, you are eligible for a 30% tax credit up to $2,000 until December 31st of this year. That's true for both heat pump to heat your home and heat pump water heaters. But that tax credit will go away. And I believe you have to have it installed by that date. There's additional rebates from Energy Trust of Oregon. You have to use an ETO trade ally. And right now for people with lower income, there is another, if you go to this website that I have here, I'll have a list of all the websites at the end. There is another federally funded savings program that will give you another $2,000 if you're low income. There are larger rebates coming at the end of this year for low to middle income people. Potentially at the end of this year, maybe in 2026 through something called the HERES program. Now this money comes from the Inflation Reduction Act. It has not been clawed back. Apparently the money is here, but we don't, it's coming. This is money that your contractor would take off when you purchase it, but it could be substantial. Potentially up to $8,000 on a heat pump. So you'll know if you're eligible by going to this website and putting in information about your adjusted gross income, your federal adjusted gross income, and a little bit more information, and it'll tell you what you're eligible for. But when it comes for this HERES program, it'll be vague about when it's coming and some of the details, which makes it hard to plan. Where am I? Okay. Okay. Electric vehicles. I'm just going to say that there, of the ways that you can reduce your personal greenhouse gas emissions, it's your car, your heating your house, and heating your water. So electric vehicles, they're fun, they're fast, they have lower operational costs. So when you plug it into your garage, you're paying then the equivalent of about $1 to $2 in gas costs as an equivalent. Lower maintenance costs, many new makes and models. And if you still are having range anxiety, which I think is a reasonable thing if you're traveling around, if you don't have a Tesla and or a Tesla converter and you're just traveling around lots of different parts of Oregon, then consider a plug-in hybrid. Plug-in hybrid will give you a battery that'll give you about 45 miles, and usually a hybrid internal combustion engine, and most of your life will be on battery unless you're doing a long distance traveling, and then you won't use, you'll still get pretty good gas mileage. Okay. Let's talk about natural gas stoves. Just a little background. So natural gas, fossil gas is 90% methane, and methane is 80 times more powerful than carbon dioxide as a greenhouse gas over 20 years. 1/3 of global warming is because of methane. Now, a lot of that methane is just coming from nature, but a bunch of it is man-made. And from fracking to your stove, 1/3 of it leaks into the atmosphere. And it even is leaking when your stove is off a little bit. A lot more of it leaks when you turn your stove on, but it's leaking potentially all the time. So cooking with methane is associated with lung disease, and particularly asthma in children. There's a 42% increase in asthma in homes that have cook with gas. And it's a very inefficient use of energy. So when you're cooking with fossil gas, think about it. Think how much heat is just going into the atmosphere. So you're just wasting a lot of energy. So this is why cooking with electric stoves is a much improvement, and induction cooking is an improvement over electric stoves because it's in a more efficient form of cooking and probably a safer form of cooking. So induction stoves are not the biggest source of greenhouse gas emissions in your home because we're just not cooking that much compared to hot water use and heating our home. But they are, a source of really toxic fumes in the home. But an induction stove has almost no emissions, and it has a variety of other benefits. It has almost immediate heat. Oh, and let me just immediate heat, very precise, safe to touch. So an induction works, the electric creates a magnetic field which heats the pan. So if you take the pan off, what's underlying it cools down almost immediately. So much less chance of injury very easy to clean. So many benefits. And induction hot plates are available for less than $100. So many of us got them to transition to try them out and are still using them. I have, let me just finish my thought. I have a very large gas stove, and when I got the bid to replace it with induction, it was heartbreaking, the cost, because what I have is a 36-inch space, and it was going to require electrical work and everything like that. And what happened is I'm so attached to my induction hot plate that I just now use my induction hot plates for 90% of my cooking. And it's fine. So the library here has ones that you can check out. And here it is. And I was going to show them to you, but they're checked out. In fact, they're overdue. So I was just delighted. We have 2 of them. We have these big bins that you can check out with an induction hot plate and 2 pans and instructions. And it even has a magnet in it so you can check and make sure that your pans work. But they're both checked out and they're both overdue. So people have them and they don't want to return them. So I was very happy about that. So I did, but I wanted them here for here today. For other folks too. Yeah. So some of the drawbacks, that your cookware has to contain iron for it to work. And believe it or not, there's a lot of cookware that is all aluminum now that doesn't contain iron. So most of my cookware, I did have to buy a couple of pans. It takes practice to learn to use them. I didn't feel really comfortable with induction until using about 15 times. So it takes some practice. Installation of induction is more expensive than a regular stove, except for these little hot plates. I have enough hearing impairment, and my husband also, that we can't hear them, but apparently there's a humming noise. It really bothers my 28-year-old daughter, and it bothers some people, but I can't hear it. And again, there's less energy cost savings compared to EVs and heat pumps. So if you're really focused on greenhouse gas emissions, this should not be your priority. Just get a hot plate. So you mentioned we may not know about the solar initiative, but actually Electrify LO initiated the solar initiative. So I don't have a slide on it because I actually have handouts for it that I will give to people. It's the one paper thing I wanted to bring. Yeah. It's right here. So we can pass these around for people. So Lake Oswego is part of the Solarize campaign with Energy Trust of Oregon and Solarize Oregon for a couple months to encourage people to take this last opportunity to get solar on their roof. And this last opportunity is because one of the things that's going away is the 30% solar tax credit. This is a very lucrative tax credit because it can save you thousands of dollars. And we're doing it now because it takes a couple months for solar to get permitted. So if you want to get solar on your roof, you have to get your contractor agreement in the next 2 months, or you will run out of time because your solar has to be operational and conducting electrons by December 31st, or you will not get this tax credit. Lake Oswego prides itself on its number of trees, but there are plenty of houses in Lake Oswego where you can get solar. The only house orientation that won't work is north facing, but if you have east, south, or west, you can do solar. You have to have a roof that has about at least 10 years life expectancy, and you have to have a roof that just doesn't have a lot of weird, funny roof angles. But there's plenty of houses in Lake Oswego that can have solar. If you have batteries, then you have resilience and can have electricity for those many days in the winter when we seem to go without electricity. And that will make you very popular in the neighborhood. The solarization campaign is just to make people aware of solar and batteries, and it gives you a list of contractors who can tell you that they will get your solar in time for you to get this, this tax credit. In addition to the federal tax credit, there's also a smaller Energy Trust of Oregon tax credit, and for income qualified people, an even better tax credit. But many people will not get solar on their roof, and almost all of them can get community solar. Community solar is where you can subscribe to a small local solar project that will be, probably within 30 miles of here, and you're going to own a little piece of it. It's your way of purchasing green renewable energy, and you can say, even though PGE has 6% coal and a bunch of natural gas, that your energy is green and clean and renewable if you sign up for community solar. Particularly if you also then, there's a green futures program. If you add it on, you can just say, I have green, clean, renewable energy at my home. It doesn't mean the electrons actually coming from that solar project are coming to your house, but that's what you're buying and supporting. It is easy to sign up. There's no sign up or termination fees. It reduces your PGE bill by about 5%. If you're income qualified, it reduces it quite a bit more. The only problem is that there can be some delays in the time you sign up until they find a project for you. Months-long delays, I've heard from people. So this is a no-brainer. Everybody should sign up for community solar. And finally, as you do this, Electrify, share your successes with others. So Erica Chenoweth studied civil resistance and social movements from 1990 to 2006. She found that nonviolent protest was twice as likely as violent protest to lead to regime change. And once 3.5% of citizens committed to regime change, success was inevitable. So what can you do? Commit to talk about your electrification journey and volunteer and support local nonprofits and government initiatives to address the climate change. This has been a year of tremendous setbacks, but we're right. Everything about what the science says we're right, and we just need to keep going and advocating and doing what's right. Thank you. Oh, and you had another question. You had another question.
Thank you, though.
You can keep it.
No, I have two others.
Oh, okay. All right. No problem.
Oh, actually, I did have one other slide, I realize.
Okay. We'll get back to it. Should be under recently opened. And
That's okay.
okay. No. There we go. Reasons. Do not have the reasons category. Okay. Not with mine. All right.
That's
gonna
okay.
Just So I was just gonna say, are there any questions that people would like to ask? Great, and I can bring a mic around.
And let me just give, I have what I didn't do is I have a slide with a list of resources and my email address. So my email address is lganzini, LGANZINI at losn.org. And if you send me an email, I will send you this PowerPoint, but also a list of resources and information that you can use.
All right.
Well, I have a tough question. I'm sure you have the answer.
Eric.
How do we get somebody to help us through this process? This can get kind of technical.
So, Eric, what do you mean by help us through this process?
Oh, I need somebody like somebody can coach me along. Huh?
Eric. So what Eric is referring to is that in Electrify Oregon, we now have now trained coaches. Coaches to help you with finding resources, making decisions, and some of them are actually here in Lake Oswego. And if you send me an email, I can get you a coach. I will send you the link to get a coach here in Lake Oswego. And thank you, Eric. I meant to say that. I don't.
All right. Any more questions?
Since you asked about sharing a success story, I'll tell you we have solar on our roof, and my husband keeps the data. And he just told me yesterday that in the last 12 months, we have now generated 107% of our power. So we haven't paid an electric bill in a long, long time. So it is, you can do it in LO, you can do it in Oregon, even on a day like today, and it does work, and it's very efficient.
Yeah, so she was just saying that in the last 12 months, they've generated 107% of their energy needs for the year. And that means you had a very good contractor, because they looked back on your electrical bill and they sized your solar panels for exactly what your needs were, so that under net metering in Oregon, you had the exact amount that you needed to get the best deal from PGE.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Your teenagers moved out, but did your life get any more electric? You got a plug-in hybrid, so.
And we have solar hot water.
Oh, interesting.
Better than the heat pump.
Oh.
And you got a solar hot water here. Okay. Okay, any other
Any more questions? All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Don't forget to fill out a survey, and also you can sign up for Cyndi's contact list, and we would love it if you would stop by the Stairwell Gallery. We really appreciate you coming. Thank you.